Yep. Guys, it's been a while. We're back to covering these One Piece chapters. Now we have David with us. So, hope you guys are looking forward to what we have to talk about. I know I am, so let's get into it. So, after we finally come off the hiatus, we have the remnants of the Oden retainers facing off against Admiral Ryokugyu, who's the last admiral we have yet to see in action.
Yeah, and he's also the newest admiral, right? So he's one of the newest admirals we just kind of see as like cameo before previous chapters, and now he's arrived to the Wano country, and he's here pretty much to get Straw Hat Luffy. And so this is kind of unexpected. I thought, like, well, one, they're saying only a single admiral, and just like it's not really assassination. Like it's not like he's like trying to sneak in. He's just kind of like, oh, he's exhausted from this fight, and now we're gonna come in and try to take Straw Hat Luffy's head and try to get rid of his crew now that he's been weakened after the Kato and Big Mom fight.
Not only that, but he pulled up on a flower. Who does that?
Yeah, speaking of pulling up on the flower, Oden actually revealed his devil fruit to us in this chapter, which is another Logia type, making him the fourth admiral who has a Logia type, with Aokiji, Akainu, and Kizaru all having Logias.
Yeah, for the longest time, I thought that being a Logia was required to be a Navy Admiral, because, when we were introduced to the Admirals, they were Aokiji, Akainu, Kizaru, so I just thought that Sengoku was also a Logia upon his reveal, but obviously we know that's not the case. His fruit is named the Woods fruit in the official translation, but in the original translation that I read, I prefer that it was it was the forest fruit, which I liked more, to be honest.
Yeah, I also personally like the forest fruit a little better, but I think the woods fruit's a little more fitting considering how hard he dick rides Akainu.
That's true. He do be on that wood. All right, then we got Yamato coming down and putting the smack on him with his advanced Conqueror's Haki, which was such a satisfying blow.
Yes, especially because it seemed as though everyone else was struggling just to put any kind of damage on him.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Yamato's pretty strong. I mean, being the son. Okay.
Yeah, it's official. It's official. His pronouns are he, him, even though they look more female to us. So.
Yes.
Listen, all I can say is Oda's mad inclusive, and I'm sure the people appreciate it.
Yes. Inclusivity, we stand.
Even though Yamato came and put the smackdown on him, we wish that Momonosuke could have followed up in the same way, but his blast breath ended up puttering out right when he needed it the most. And then we cut to Shanks.
Yes.
Oh man.
Yeah, so Shanks, saying like he's here to reclaim the One Piece. And this is huge. We never knew like how close Shanks was to acquiring the One Piece, nor do we know if Shanks has read all the poneglyphs yet, and how far he's gone on his journey. And so this is like huge, because this kind of like saying like, we talked about before how like Oda is saying like everything before this was just, filler. And now this is like the real content. And so that also kind of brings up a good point of like how much further is the journey, and also what is left to get to One Piece, and where is One Piece, like and so now that Shanks is here, this brings up a great opportunity. Shanks has that promise to Luffy that once he becomes a great pirate, that he'll finally re-meet Luffy, and maybe we'll get a lot more clues about what is One Piece, where it is, and what's the next step for Luffy and the team from here.
Yeah, among the current ruling pirates who are, now the new Yonko, we don't know how close Shanks is to obtaining the One Piece, because obviously we haven't been following his adventures, so we don't know how many road poneglyphs he's managed to read. We don't even know if he has like the voice of all things, or if he has somebody on the crew that's capable of like reading the ancient texts. So the fact that he's able to say, let's go claim One Piece, it just opens a lot of questions,
Yeah.
Like, it seemed like a very bold statement.
I just kind of wondered, maybe he always had the means to get to the One Piece. Like, I know he was part of Roger's crew and all that went down, but that's been so many years since then. What if he went and he got everything he ever needed to get the One Piece and just decided he was just gonna wait? He was like, it's not even meant for me anyway, because it's for the next generation. It's for Luffy, kinda. And so maybe he's like, all right, now that Luffy's a Yonko. He's getting close to accomplishing the dream of becoming the Pirate King. Maybe it's time for me to become the thing that's standing in his way, claim the One Piece, and have that kind of showdown that I guess Shanks is inevitably waiting for.
Yeah, maybe Shanks wants to meet Luffy on Laugh Tale.
Yeah.
That would be a fitting ending. But well, let's save that for the discussion section. So, getting caught up in the world events, we hear that Nefertari Cobra has died.
Yes.
He's been murdered and Vivi is missing. The Revolutionary Army managed to rescue Kuma under Sabo's lead, who's being referred to as the Flame Emperor.
And the murderer of Cobra as well.
Yeah,
As stated
he's
in the-
framed as
yeah,
the
it's
murderer
framed.
of Cobra.
Yeah, I don't know.
that-
I just can't believe it personally. I like Sabo. I believe Sabo would definitely murder some people. I don't think Nefertari Cobra would be one of them, especially given that I'm sure he has to know about like Luffy's strong connection to Vivi and them.
True. Hopefully he does.
Hopefully. Either way, I love the fact that he's got the name of the Flame Emperor, and the people who are following behind him and rallying behind him are even like, and his brother is a Yonko too. Like, they're just throwing it in there. They're like, the whole family's goated. Let's hear it.
Emperors on emperors.
Emperors on emperors.
Not to mention an overwhelming victory by the revolutionaries as they managed to escape with everybody, according to the director of investigation, Kuruma. And Kizaru also mentions that Saint Charlos, who I'm sure we're all familiar with because of Shabandi, was marked in an attempted murder, and I couldn't be happier. I wish I could shake the attempted murderer's hand myself, because everyone who's familiar with Charlos knows he's a piece of crap.
I just wish that. I wish it wasn't attempted. I wish it was successful. That's the only problem I got.
That's fair. We also got a little bit of shouting with Akainu. So he mentions the Holy Knights, as well as he's saying that he's like ready to go to war with all the pirates and stuff. So this is also pretty huge. The Marines have been fairly hands off, where they'll send like some agents here and there, just like they did in the Wano country. So it sounds like Akainu is also planning to make a lot bigger moves, and so this could maybe turn into another great war like we saw with Whitebeard and the Marines and Straw Hats.
Yeah, we all know that Oda has been foreshadowing a huge war coming, so this could be the sparks to ignite that conflict.
I would say I would love to see them run it back, not only with Luffy having his crew behind him this time when he's fighting them, but also with all the new upgrades he's earned. I mean, he's gotten so much stronger with the fact that he not only mastered Conqueror's Haki, but he now has Ryo. He learned how to code his attacks in it. He has Gear 5th. I mean, so much has changed since then, so I would love to see how he fares now.
And he has Conqueror's Haki that he can cope himself with. So I'll be expecting some Whitebeard level attacks when he punches through Akainu this time.
Yeah.
Return the favor.
He's gonna be like, he gonna give him the Ace treatment. He said, remember when you did this to
Yes.
Ace? Your turn. Bop.
So Sabo is the face of an 8-nation revolution with many more sparking around the world. Both of the remaining brothers are being referred to as emperors. This is huge. Yet in the midst of all this, like David said, Akainu seems ready for the challenge. So let's move on to chapter 1055.
Yeah, so starting off chapter 1055, we go back to Ryokuju, and he's out here just kicking everyone's asses in Wano. So all of the retainers for Odin are pretty much getting handed. All the samurais are just getting handed left and right. Even Yamamoto was having some trouble. But also, I mean, pretty much we get to see a little bit into what the poneglyph on the Wano country, like where it's being stored and where it's being located. So we have Law and Robin walking down and unlocking some new secrets to the Wano country. So probably one of the biggest secrets, for one, is that the Wano country is the new Wano country. And there's actually an old Wano country that was below sea level in Wano. And so this is a huge finding for the crew. And honestly, a huge finding for the audience as well. Because we have never known that there was an old Wano that was underwater and also is being fairly well preserved as well. Like, it's not being deteriorated. So this means that there's a lot of secrets.
Yeah, Robin even mentioned that she was like, it's so well preserved, like this isn't seawater, is it? Because seawater like tends to erode and destroy anything that's put under it for too long. And so we kind of learned that when they built the walls around Wano, the rainwater was the thing that had no place to go, that started filling up and eventually like sinking all of old Wano.
Yeah, not only that, but Sukiyaki is the only person who was aware that that passageway existed. it seems like it's been passed down from shogun to shogun.
Yeah.
So, as you hear in the future, he mentions that when Momo and Odin, when Odin said he wanted to open the country, it's a literal act, which breaks down the walls of Wano, and it releases the water that's preserving old Wano, as well as an ancient weapon, as we're keenly aware, thanks to Sukiyaki's wisdom. He knows that Wano houses Pluton, which is huge, because we've been hearing about Pluton even before the time skip, right? Like, we've heard about Pluton since Alabasta. Crocodile was making a big deal of obtaining Pluton, and he said once he obtained it, he would become the most powerful, he would make Alabasta the most powerful nation on Earth. Mm-hmm. So the power behind Pluton can't be understated. And the fact that it's been talked about for so long, like, just in the One Piece timeline, 2 years before that, when they were in Alabasta, it's been talked about. In our real time, it's been over like 10 years since Pluton was first mentioned. And now here we are, right beside the third poneglyph. We have one of the most powerful ancient weapons in One Piece. So the fact that we're like coming up onto like these realizations makes me think that Oda's like dead serious about like finishing One Piece soon, because this is a huge reveal.
Yeah, I'm loving all the hype that Oda's building, because he really said, he admitted, he said that he wanted to make a series where the final part is like the most exciting. And that's saying something, because One Piece has never been something I would ever describe as boring. Like, I understand there are some parts where people are like, oh, the filler, some arcs stretch on for a while, but even then I would never have said, oh, One Piece is boring. And so the fact that now, in this final arc, he's like, I'm gonna be kicking it up to 11, and then we get these 2 chapters where we're just learning all of this stuff, huge drops. I'm so ready for it, I'm excited.
Yes, the Straw Hats only need one more road poneglyph to be able to reach the island of Laugh Tale, and then presumably finding the One Piece.
Yes, and then as, we're finding out all these secrets, it also brings up the question, why did Odin, want to open the country if he knew that opening the country, bringing down these walls, would unleash Pluton as well. So that's definitely brings up some more secrets that we'll see, hopefully later on. But going back to the Ryokuju fight, so now with Yamamoto got into the fight, but then we see that now Momosuke wants to get into the fight, and Momosuke is honestly he's building up a lot of character here. Like, he's saying, Yamamoto, I don't want you to fight. And Ryokuju's saying, oh, I want Straw Hat Luffy, I want all the smoke, I want to fight. I'm trying to take them down. And Yamamoto says, or not Yamamoto, but Momosuke says, hey, this is our country. If we can't defend it, we have to depend on other people. How can we ever face Luffy and them again? Like, once they leave, we don't want them to be seen as weak, right? So this is like really huge, and Momosuke finally goes back into the fight, and he's finally able to unleash that Kami.
Not quite the Kamehameha, but the effect still stands. Finally happens. Momo unlocks the same level of blast breath that Kaido uses and blasts clean through Ryokugyu. It was such a satisfying scene, but since he didn't have Haki, it didn't have the effect that we wanted. But that's fine, because a serious wave of Conqueror's Haki hits Ryokugyu and he backs off immediately. And the wave of Haki came from none other than Shanks, who happens to be in the waters of Wano.
Yeah, honestly, just everything about that scene I loved. I first loved Momo's moment where he really does double down, and at first I wasn't sure why when he was saying, no, don't lay a hand on him, to Yamato, and like, he was talking about how they don't want to rely on them. At first I thought he was being silly, but when he gave his reasoning about how, like, we're gonna be sending you off soon, and he's like, how can we look at you and tell you Wano's gonna be safe if we are too weak to even defend ourselves? And I was honestly just like, I was really shook by like the amount of maturity that Momo was showing in that moment. Especially because, despite everything, he is still a little boy. He was jumped into the future, and his body got matured by Shinobu.
Shinobu.
Is that her name?
Yeah, Shinobu.
Yes, but even then, still, he's still a little boy. Like, his mind is still that of a child. And so the fact that he's really trying so hard to step up and be mature, I was really happy to see. Especially because after he didn't fail to actually handle Ryokugyu, he managed to hit him with a blast breath and then just keep spamming blast breath back to back. Until homie had to come back as a plant. Like, you see the little flower, like, grow through the ground?
Yeah.
And then he's like, so I also wonder if that means, like, can Ryokugyu, if, like, there's no hockey in the attack, does he just have, like, low-level revive ability? Like, he can just keep coming back so long as a small plant can grow?
So I have a theory. I've seen similar powers like this. Like, people have these, like, kind of, like, wood, style, like, powers and stuff. And I was thinking that it would kind of be, like, if his roots are connected to whatever that extension of his body is, that he can, regenerate from a part of that root. So although like that body was disintegrated, he's still connected to those roots in the ground. And so what I got, it's kind of a little hard to tell from the art style, but I thought his consciousness retreated to the roots and like regenerated elsewhere, where his roots were connected in the ground.
Kind of like how you remember how Pika could move his body throughout the rock in Dressrosa.
That actually makes a lot of sense.
He was able to like move his like main body around the giant rock structure. So I'm thinking that Ryokugyu is kind of the same.
That actually would make so much sense. I didn't even think about the root thing, but that would explain a lot. I was like so confused. I was like, oh man, I just assumed he would like pop out of the giant wood man that he made, but instead like seeing him come back via a plant, I was so confused at first, but the root thing makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Moving on, I just wanted to mention that I find it interesting that Ryokugyu was able to tell that the hockey belonged to Shanks. It makes me wonder if they have history, because, later Luffy says a familiar face comes to mind, but he doesn't immediately place it as Shanks. And neither does Jinbei, Zoro, or Sanji, who are presumably much better at, like, hockey now, given the battle that just took place. But either way, Ryokugyu hightails it out of there while Shanks is talking shit on him, which I really liked. He's like, are you that scared? Are you that much of a pussy?
Yeah, facts. He was like, you scared of some kids, bro? He's like, I'll show you something to be scared of. Conquer hockey from outside the country, and Ryokugyu was paralyzed by it.
Yes, he just stood there. He was like, I don't want this. I didn't sign up for this.
Not today.
And then we cut to a view on the hill where Zoro, Sanji, and Jinbei happen to be watching the whole confrontation transpire. Sanji's surprised that they didn't have to lend a hand, and Zoro comments on Momo, and I'm assuming the blast breath, and Jinbei comments on the incredible hockey, with Luffy making the chapter by saying a familiar face popped into my head, giving me hope that we'll soon get the reunion we're looking for.
Yes.
And that concludes chapter 1055, so now I want to leave a little bit of time for discussion to ask these guys some questions.
Get into it.
So, overall, what were both your thoughts on the chapters? I'm going to start with Akio.
So I've already talked about how much I'm enjoying the hype that Oda's building, but I do love these chapters for the moments besides the hype. Just when we saw Shanks on his ship outside of Wano, and everyone on his crew thought that they were gonna go see Luffy and them now, and Yaosop being like, wait, I'm not ready to see Usopp yet, and everyone talking about like what's gonna go down. He's like, no, it's not time for that. But I thought that was funny to see his crew like kind of trying to prepare themselves for what they thought was gonna be their standoff with the Straw Hats. I like the fact that that Luffy and them were all watching the fight from a distance. Like they were there in case it ever got to the point where they needed to save them. They were ready, but they were willing to like give them the chance to like hold their own and kind of see what everybody had. So I thought that was nice as well.
Awesome. Yeah, I also like that we got to see Momo evolve as a person and as a dragon.
Yeah.
Yes.
What about you, David?
Yeah, so I was super excited for these chapters. Particularly, I love that Oda is really pushing the pacing, I feel like, with the storyline. Like, we get a lot of information on what's happening outside the world. Because a lot of times, when we're getting to these arcs, we're very, like, kind of narrowed down on this one particular region, or this one island, or this one, situation. You don't really know what's happening around the rest of the world. So there are definitely a lot of big world events. Obviously, there's tons of pirates who are, really big names. There's Revolutionary Army, there's Shanks, as well as, Rock. We don't know about Rock.
Yeah.
Rock.
The Rocks Pirates.
Yeah, the Rocks Pirates. And of
Or
course, Buggy the
Blackbeard.
Clown.
Yeah, Blackbeard as well, right?
Yeah, Blackbeard as well. Like, there's still a lot of things that could be happening as, you know, we're here in Wano Country. We know what's happening outside. So I thought this was a great kind of like view from outside in to kind of see how these events are going to either correlate, as well as the Marines and with the Kainu, how, you know, people are like making these moves, you know, to foreshadow something that's going to be much bigger than any of them individually.
Yes. And to add my thoughts, I really liked how we finally got some big reveals on Pluton. We got to find the next road poneglyph, so we're that much closer to the One Piece. I am curious to see how long it'll take for Luffy to reconnect with Shanks, because it seems like Shanks is on his own mission, and that's why he's going through the waters of Wano. But now that I think about it, I feel like he got there pretty fast, right? Because he was, the last time we saw Shanks, he was talking to the 5 Elder Stars, the Gorosei. And now here he is in Wano. It's just like, wow, you're moving pretty fast, bud. I don't know where he was in chapter 1054. I'm guessing he was on route to Wano when he was having that conversation with Ben Beckman. But I just like how it seems like everything's like culminating to a climax. So, do we think that Nefertari Cobra is really dead? What do you guys think?
My money's on he's not really dead. I think that especially if Vivi's missing, I think that there's definitely more going on here. I think that the chance that both of them are still alive and maybe they're siding with the revolutionaries, I could see that being the big thing. Like, they may be, especially given their ties to Luffy, the fact that a lot of these countries, but I mean, because remember back when the marriage war was first going on and everyone was arriving, like, Vivi, Shirahoshi, and Rebecca? Is that from
Dressrosa, yeah.
Dressrosa? Yeah, they all pretty much were like, oh, you know Luffy too? Like, we love him. And they had their little friendship moment bonding over, like, him helping them and how they grew close with everyone. And so I feel like there's definitely these people among the big countries whose allegiances don't necessarily lie as heavily with the Marines and with the
Celestial Dragons.
The Celestial Dragons, yeah, they don't lie as closely with them compared to maybe the pirates or the revolutionaries or other people. And so I could definitely see, depending on what went down at the marriage war, that I could see maybe them either shifting sides and the Marines are trying to cover it up by being like, Nefertari Cobra's dead and Sabo murdered him, to try to dissuade people from joining his side and maybe try to cover up the fact that the leader of the country decided to side with Sabo.
Yeah. I feel like that would have the opposite effect. Like, if somebody told me like they killed an asshole politician, I'd be like, oh, I'm actually in favor of that guy now.
Yeah.
Like, so it's some vigilanteism, but sometimes you just get annoyed with people in charge, you know. What about you?
Yeah, personally, I think I don't know. I feel it doesn't really fit the style of the Revolutionary Army, or like definitely like the decisions that Dragon has made with the Revolutionary Army. So I think this could be some type of stunt. Like, I think potentially maybe Cobra and Vivi probably got a hold of some information that they probably should not have, and so they could be like hidden or like, you know, or being like kept under safety, maybe probably under the Revolutionary Army. Also, you know, information is really powerful in One Piece. Like we saw, like when Luffy had beat Kaido and Big Mom, that you know, the Marines are not trying to let the press send that information out, right? Because they know that information is powerful. So maybe this could be a retaliation of the Marines trying to get some type of control over the media that's happening in the world, because there's so many events happening, right? They don't want people to be in favor of the pirates, you know, like over the world. They want to have control over the common folk.
So while I do think Nefertari Cobra might be dead, I don't think it's Sabo that killed him. So I think that they had to dispose of him in a way. And I think that him being disposed of connects with Vivi missing, because if you guys remember, in the Reverie arc, when we finally have Emu revealed to us, he's holding 3 pieces of paper. He's holding a picture of Blackbeard, Luffy, and Vivi. And then when we end the chapter, we see that I think the pictures of Blackbeard and Luffy have been like chopped up, and then Vivi's next. Vivi's the only one that still remains intact. and if I'm remembering correctly, that means that I think so. Imu was holding 3 pictures. He had Blackbeard, Luffy, and Vivi, and then he chopped up Blackbeard and Luffy, and then he had Vivi. So I think that set Vivi aside, or like marked her to be, I don't know, a target of some kind of event, because they were saying, oh, we need to erase somebody from history, and I mean the Gorosei were saying that.
Right.
So whether Vivi missing means that they're gonna remove her from history, or they're going to try to remove the whole Nefertari family from history, I mean, that's pretty big.
Yeah, and also the reasoning of why, right? Like what does Vivi have to do with like her ancestors?
Yeah. I mean, you know, her ancestors were the original part of the original 20 members that founded the world government, and after the you know, the whole big war that resulted from the Void Century, and so that might have something to do with her being special and why they have to remove her, right? And so, thoughts on your guys's thoughts on more news of Pluton's reveal and how that kind of like the impact on the plot that has. What do you guys think?
Yeah, so again, I think Pluton being hinted at and being revealed is like huge, right? Because you have all these ancient, you know, weapons that are kind of being uncovered and being talked about, and all this foreshadowing from Oda. Like, there's definitely a huge war coming up, and people are, you know, bearing arms and stocking up. And if you don't have an ancient weapon, you know, ready, locked and loaded, like, you're not in the fight, and you're not. You're gonna get obliterated. Your nation might just get destroyed off the face of the planet.
Yeah, you might be walking into a gunfight with a knife if you don't have an ancient weapon by the time this war pops off.
Exactly, and I think a key thing is that each of the ancient weapons aren't necessarily like a tangible weapon. Like we see, like Neptune, for example, like being the power to conquer and control like the Sea Kings. Like that's a huge power. That's super powerful, but it's not like a gun or like a knife, right? So it'll be really interesting to see what Pluton will have in store, especially because it's hidden within Wano, and to use it, you have to, you know, open up Wano, meaning like you have to take down these giant walls of stone that are around Wano. Like what type of weapon like could that be?
Yeah. What about you, Akil?
Yeah, I definitely do think that Oda's foreshadowing Pluton, but it won't be making any kind of real play in the manga for another couple hundred chapters, maybe. But it does add a lot of questions. Like, you're right, like a lot of the weapons aren't attainable things. Neptune was Shirahoshi, and it was her the ability to communicate with Sea Kings. And they talk about how Pluton has the ability to destroy islands, and that kind of makes me wonder, especially if it's not an attainable thing, is it straight up the power to destroy islands? Like, could they just wipe it out with a giant blast? Or is it something that's more like they can control land, and with it they can create and destroy islands? Maybe it's something similar to that. But I also want to talk about the fact that a lot of these ancient weapons do have these kind of space tie-ins with Neptune, Uranus, and Pluton, with Pluton being Pluto, like the last 3 planets in our solar system. And we do know that space has played a role in One Piece before, with Eneru trying to get to space and him being in space right now on the moon with those little tiny creature people.
Yeah.
So there's a lot that we don't know necessarily about all that, but I do think the fact that the ancient weapons have these names definitely probably has some significance in whatever is going on out in space outside of the world of literally the world of One Piece.
Yeah. I mean, from what people were saying, Pluton could literally like reshape islands. So when they were talking about like how Pluton had the power to destroy islands, it kind of brought up a similar token of how Whitebeard's power was strong enough to destroy the world. I've also seen like theories of how the ancient weapons, one could be in the form of a object, one could be a person, one could be a fruit, because you know you have devil fruits rampant throughout the entire One Piece world. It would make sense that maybe there's a fruit that contains a power to cause monumental changes and be considered an ancient weapon. But I do think Pluton is either a ship or Well, let me cut to the whole Blackbeard case. So, you know how Blackbeard has this member of his crew called San Juan, Battleship Wolf, who was literally the size of Battleship. And he can grow and shrink in size. And, you know, he's a living being that has the power of a, I guess, ship, right?
Yeah.
And so we have Pluton, who Oda said, in this translation at least, was slumbering in Wano. And so the fact that he chooses to use the word slumber might mean that Pluton is something living, or it might be alive in some aspect, and the ability to control it might fall to somebody that is, I don't know, actually. It might be someone that has ties to the Shogunate line, like how Momo and Odin were able to talk to Zunisha, the elephant, because of their status as shoguns of Wano. It makes me think that you would need to have some special standing to be able to use Pluton. But I don't think anybody can just come in and control a weapon that powerful.
Yeah, especially since they mentioned that that Kato, you know, he found the Poneglyph, right?
Yeah.
Because he had someone on his crew who was a fishman, but clearly he didn't use Pluton, right? Or he didn't unlock Pluton, or he didn't have the means to do that. So yeah, there must be some requirement in order to unlock Pluton, right? That even like one of the Yonko couldn't do by themselves.
Yeah. And then it goes back to when Odin said he wanted to open the borders. Like, that's a literal act that unleashes Pluton on the world.
Mm-hmm.
So I wonder what his judgment was, that he felt it was time for Pluton to be brought out of its slumber.
Oh, he's trying to eat the world government.
He's just like, yeah.
He's like, yeah, it's time.
Gotta run these ops into the ground. And so we finally have the third road poneglyph. Where do you guys think the last one is?
But yeah, I think from the previous poneglyphs, they're always in somewhere where it's wrapped around like mystery, right? Or somewhere that's just like hard to get to because it's highly protected. You know, we have Big Mom with her poneglyph. We have Fishman Island, like that's a difficult poneglyph for anyone to get, right? Unless you know, have a way of like breathing underwater or getting your ship underwater. And then obviously, you know, the Wano country, a place where people were literally scared of catching work when you step onto the island. So I think the last one has to be somewhere where it's going to be highly protected, and also there's going to be a lot of mystery around it. It's going to have, you know, a place that's just hard to find or hard to get to. So my top pick is Elbath, the land of the giants, where, I mean, obviously the giants will eat anyone that gets close to them. And then, you know, yeah, that's a scary thing. So a lot of people have not been to the land of the giants, and a lot of people still think it's like a myth, you know, actually getting to it.
Yeah. What about you, Akil? What do you think?
Yeah, I definitely have to agree with David on this one. I also think that it's probably an Elbath, not only because of what he said, like it's right, like no one's just gonna pull up to Elbath if you manage to get there, if you believe it exists. You're not gonna pull up and be like, hey, I'm just here to take this poneglyph and just leave. They love fighting too, so you know you're gonna catch all the smoke. But additionally, Elbath, giants live way longer than most other races that we've met in One Piece. And so I definitely do think that they have probably like a rich history and knowledge in terms of like the poneglyphs and a lot of stuff that's gone on compared to a lot of these other places that we visited where it's like, oh, I've heard stories from my great whoever who passed it down the line or whatever. Whereas we're more likely to be like, oh yeah, like my grandpa told me because giants live so long that it could be a dad or a grandpa who told them directly, who knew directly. And so I feel like it's definitely Elbath. Especially just because I'm big hype for the Straw Hats to hit Elbath. They have to. Like, no, I love Oda, but if I don't get to see Elbath, I'm gonna be so heated. I'm gonna be big mad.
You do not want to make Akil big mad. All right, I am a dissenting opinion from these two. I think that the final road poneglyph is on the remnants of God Valley, and the reason that I think that is because of the conflict that had to have taken place there. So you know how you had Roger and Garp going there to confront the Rocks pirates, stop Rocks Diesebek, I guess save whatever celestial dragons were being held captive there, whatever. And so I think that Roger going there, he wouldn't want to free celestial dragons. There must be some other reason he's there, and it would be a selfish one. And I think it would be the reason he would go there would be to defeat Roxby Zebek and get the Poneglyph that he had. And I think that the road Poneglyph that he had was already on God Valley, and that's why he made his base around it. And so I think that them having to battle their way through the Rocks Pirates and finally get this last rubbing to go to Laughtail was just another step in the road for Roger to becoming the Pirate King. And he knew he had to do it eventually, so why not do it with the strongest Marine in history, Monkey D. Garp? And so that's kind of my thinking around it, and why they have to go there. And going there, they might, the Straw Hats might run into the Blackbeard Pirates.
Yeah.
And then this would be kind of like a round two, right? So you have the Blackbeard Pirates there, you have Luffy going there, who represents a new Pirate King, and then maybe you have Kobe coming there for some reason, trying to stop the Straw Hats or trying to stop Blackbeard from doing something, or I don't know. Marines just kind of have their own agenda sometimes, and it's weird to see how these things connect. But I do think that there's going to be a big conflict on God Valley, and that they said the island was destroyed, but as we were saying earlier, information is power.
Yeah.
So I think they just hid the island. I don't think that it's gone. So what lies on that island, I think, is of significant importance, and I think it's the last final road.
That's definitely really interesting, and I would love to see the Luffy Kobe team up, especially because we haven't seen just how strong Kobe's gotten. He's earned titles, he's rising up the ranks in the Marines really fast, but we haven't actually seen him fight anybody. So I would love to see a little team up with him and Luffy.
Yes.
What if that's the how you say history retelling itself? Like Goldie Roger and Garp, but now it's Kobe and Luffy.
Inherited will, man. What if we never learned Kobe's full name? What if Kobe has a D in his name? Pause. But if he also carries the will of D, then that would just that would be huge.
That's true.
Pause. But we all want to know how Kobe's doing. He's one of our favorite. I think I can speak for everyone here when you say he's one of our favorite Marine characters because of how far back him and Luffy go in the series. So.
And also because most of the Marines are trash.
Yes, most of them.
most
Ryokugu.
Ryokugu Akainu.
So I guess that kind of wraps up the video here.
Yeah.
We had some pretty interesting topics of discussion, and so I can't wait to see what else Oda reveals to us in the next chapter, and we'll be seeing you guys next time. So, squad out.
Squad out.
Squad out.